I'm not your family, so eat what they give. The mother-in-law quit when her daughter was silent, chewing steak. The man smiled. Great, then I'll file divorce papers for you right here. Her fork fell, and the table froze in shock. Mateo Ramirez tapped his keyboard, fixing a server glitch for a client in downtown Miami, his fingers moving with the precision of a surgeon. At 34, he'd built a steady life as an IT specialist, paying the rent on a modest Brickell apartment he shared with his wife, Sophia. His phone buzzed. Another text from Sophia, reminding him about her family's annual lunch at their Coral Gables estate. He sighed, already dreading the gathering. The Gonzalez family never missed a chance to remind him he didn't belong. 3 years earlier, Mateo met Sophia at a Little Havana library fundraiser. He was sorting donated sci-fi novels, cracking awkward jokes about dystopian plots, when Sophia's laugh cut through the room like a melody. She was organizing the romance section, debating whether to shelve a worn-out love story under fiction or fantasy. Her wit and warmth hooked him instantly. They bonded over Cuban coffee and late-night talks about their dreams, his to build a stable future, hers to climb the corporate ladder. When they married, Mateo thought they were a team, unstoppable despite her family's wealth casting a shadow over his blue-collar roots. Now, as he locked his laptop and grabbed his car keys, doubt gnawed at him. Sophia had lost her marketing job a year ago after botching a major campaign, a fact she hid from her family. Mateo covered their bills, rent, utilities, Sophia's untouched credit card debt, while she promised to figure things out. Her family, oblivious to her unemployment, still treated Mateo like an outsider who'd somehow tricked their golden daughter into marriage. He pulled into the Coral Gables estate, the sprawling lawn and gated driveway, screaming old money. Sophia was already inside, helping her mother, Carmen, with last-minute preparations. Mateo stepped out, carrying a cooler of beers he'd bought to avoid another lecture about his cheap taste. Carmen greeted him at the door, her smile tight, like she was posing for a portrait she didn't want to be in. Mateo, be a dear and set up the patio tables, she said, waving him toward the backyard without a handshake. He nodded, biting back a retort, and hauled the heavy teak furniture into place. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he arranged chairs under the blazing Miami sun, while Sophia chatted with her sister, Lilia, over iced coffee by the pool. Inside, Sophia caught his eye and mouthed, "You okay?" Mateo gave a thumbs up, hoping her concern meant she'd stand up for him today. She'd promised as much last night, curled up on their couch, her voice soft with guilt. "I'll talk to them if they start," she'd said, squeezing his hand. He wanted to believe her, but 7 years of marriage had taught him promises were fragile when her family was involved. Hector, Sophia's father, emerged from the house, his loafers clicking on the stone path. "Mateo, still tinkering with computers?" he asked, his tone implying it was a hobby, not a career. Mateo forced a smile. "Keeping companies running, Hector. It pays the bills." Hector snorted, adjusting his watch. "Pay some bills, I suppose. You should think bigger. Real estate. Investments, something with a future." Mateo gripped a chair tighter, his knuckles whitening, but stayed silent. He'd heard this script before. Lilia sauntered over, her phone in hand, scrolling through social media. "Mateo, you should try influencing," she said with a smirk. "Oh wait, you need charisma for that." She laughed, flipping her hair, and rejoined Sophia by the pool. Mateo's jaw clenched, but he kept moving, setting out plates as more guests arrived. Cousins, uncles, and family friends, all dressed in the unspoken uniform of wealth. He felt like a stagehand in their performance, invisible until needed. As the lunch hour neared, Carmen called everyone to the dining room. Mateo wiped his hands on a towel, his stomach rumbling. He'd been up since dawn, skipping breakfast to prep for this circus. Sophia slipped beside him, whispering, "It'll be fine. Just be you." Her words felt hollow, her eyes darting nervously to her mother. Mateo followed her inside, where a long mahogany table gleamed under a chandelier. He took a seat at the far end, away from Hector's commanding spot at the head. The room filled with chatter, inside jokes about yacht trips and charity galas Mateo had never been invited to. Carmen clapped her hands, announcing a special treat for the family. Servers emerged with sizzling ribeyes and delicate mango tarts, each plate placed with ceremony before every guest. except Mateo. His spot remained empty, the tablecloth glaringly bare. He glanced at Sophia, waiting for her to notice, to say something, anything. She cut into her steak, laughing at a cousin's story, her eyes avoiding his. Tia Rosa, Hector's blunt sister, paused mid-bite, her fork hovering. "Carmen, where's Mateo's plate?" she asked, her voice sharp enough to cut through the room's buzz. All heads turned. Carmen's smile didn't waver. "I ordered for family," she said coolly, as if stating the weather. Sophia froze, her fork trembling. Mateo's chest tightened, the air suddenly heavy. 7 years of slights, snide comments, forgotten invitations, dismissive glances, crashed over him like a wave. He locked eyes with Sophia, his voice steady but cold. "Am I family or not?" Mateo's question hung in the air like a storm cloud ready to burst. The dining room, buzzing with laughter moments ago, fell silent, forks stilled, and eyes darted between him and Sophia. She gripped her napkin, knuckles pale, her gaze fixed on the untouched steak before her. "Don't do this," she whispered, barely audible, her voice trembling with a mix of fear and pleading. Mateo leaned forward, his pulse pounding. "Answer me, Sophia. Am I your husband, or just the help?" Hector cleared his throat, his chair creaking as he shifted. "Let's keep this civil," he said, his tone dripping with authority, as if Mateo were a disruptive employee. "This Burgo is about business, not personal feuds." Mateo shot him a look. "Personal? Like being left out of your family's feast?" He stood, pushing his chair back. "I've been setting tables and hauling wine crates all morning. I deserve an answer." Lilia snorted, tossing her phone onto the table. "You're embarrassing yourself, Mateo. Sit down and stop making a scene." Her words stung, sharp and dismissive, but Mateo ignored her, his eyes locked on Sophia. She shrank under his stare, her hands twisting the napkin into knots. "Please, not now," she muttered, glancing at her mother for rescue. Carmen's lips tightened, but she said nothing, her silence louder than words. Tia Rosa slammed her glass down, the red wine sloshing. "Enough of this nonsense," she barked, her voice cutting through the tension. "Sophia, tell the man he's family, or explain why you're letting your mother treat him like a servant." The room gasped, a cousin dropping his fork with a clatter. Rosa's bluntness was a grenade, and Mateo felt a flicker of gratitude. Someone saw the truth. Sophia's shoulders slumped, her voice barely a whisper. "You're my husband, okay? But family's complicated." Mateo's stomach twisted. Complicated? He'd spent years swallowing their insults, working overtime to cover her secret unemployment, and she called it complicated? "Complicated is lying to your parents about losing your job," he said, his voice low but sharp. "Complicated is letting me pay for everything while you play perfect daughter." The table erupted in murmurs. Hector's face darkened. "What's he talking about, Sophia?" he demanded. She shook her head, tears welling up. "It's not. I was going to tell you." Mateo reached into his bag, pulling out a stack of bank statements, each one a piece of evidence. "These say otherwise," he said, tossing them onto the table. "Rent, groceries, your credit card. My money, not yours. For a year." Carmen snatched the papers, her hands shaking as she scanned them. "Sophia, is this true?" Her voice was ice, her composure cracking. Sophia's tears spilled over, but she nodded, unable to speak. Lilia jumped up, pointing at Mateo. "You're lying to embarrass her. You're just jealous of our family." Mateo met her glare. "Jealous of what? A family that treats me like garbage? I've got nothing to prove to you." A family friend, silent until now, coughed awkwardly. "Maybe we should let them sort this out privately," he suggested, but Rosa waved him off. "No, this needs airing out. They've been bullying this man for years." The murmurs grew louder, cousins exchanging glances, some nodding in reluctant agreement. Mateo felt the room shift, the weight of their judgment turning toward Sophia and her parents. Hector pounded the table, his voice booming. "This is unacceptable. You don't air private matters in front of family." Mateo stepped closer, undeterred. "Private? You've all made it public, ignoring me at every gathering. I'm done being invisible." Sophia reached for his arm, her touch desperate. "Mateo, let's talk alone. Please." He pulled away, his heart hardening. We've talked. You chose silence every time they humiliated me. Carmen stood, her voice sharp. You're out of line, Mateo. This is our home. He nodded, calm but resolute. And I'm your son-in-law, not your errand boy. But that ends today. He pulled a manila folder from his bag and slid it across the table to Sophia. Her eyes widened as she opened it, revealing draft divorce papers. The room froze, every breath held. You've got a choice now, Mateo said, his voice steady. Sign these, or we do this the hard way. Sophia's hands trembled as she stared at the papers, her tears hitting the table. Hector's chair scraped back, his face red with fury. You can't do this, he shouted. Mateo crossed his arms. Already did. The room exploded in chaos, voices overlapping, accusations flying. Tia Rosa leaned back, a faint smile on her lips, as if she'd been waiting for this moment. Mateo stood tall, the weight of 7 years lifting, his resolve unbreakable. The dining room crackled with tension, the divorce papers on the table like a lit fuse. Sophia clutched the folder, her hands shaking as tears streamed down her cheeks. Mateo, please, she choked out, her voice raw. We can fix this. Mateo stood firm, his arms crossed, his eyes unyielding. Fix what? Your lies? Your family's disrespect? 7 years of you letting them walk all over me? His words cut through the chaos, silencing the room. Hector surged to his feet, his fist slamming the table, rattling plates. You're destroying this family, he roared, pointing at Mateo. You think you can waltz in here and tear us apart? Mateo didn't flinch. You did that yourselves, he shot back. Every time you treated me like an outsider, you chipped away at your daughter's marriage. Carmen gasped, clutching her wine glass like a lifeline. How dare you speak to us like that? Tia Rosa snorted, leaning forward. He's got every right. You've been treating him like a doormat since day one. Her words hit like a slap, and a few cousins nodded, their loyalty to the Gonzalez family wavering. Lilia, red-faced, jumped in. This is ridiculous. Sophia's the victim here, not him. She turned to Mateo, venom in her voice. You're just bitter because you'll never fit in with us. Mateo's laugh was sharp, humorless. Fit in? With people who think wealth excuses cruelty? I'd rather be broke than be like you. He pulled out his phone, scrolling to a saved email. Here's the truth you don't want to hear. He held it up, showing a message from Sophia's former boss. Sophia didn't just lose her job. She tanked a $150,000 deal by missing a deadline, then lied to you all about it. I've been covering her bills ever since. The room erupted. A cousin whispered to another. She said she got a promotion. Carmen snatched the phone, her eyes scanning the email, her jaw tightening. Sophia, explain this, she demanded, her voice low and dangerous. Sophia sobbed, shaking her head. I was ashamed, she stammered. I didn't want you to think I failed. Hector's face twisted with disgust. So you let your husband carry you while you lied to us? Mateo tossed another stack of papers onto the table. Credit card statements, utility bills, all in his name. These aren't lies, he said. I paid for her car, her gym, her shopping sprees. While she played perfect daughter, I worked double shifts. Sophia's sobs grew louder, but Mateo felt no pity, only the cold clarity of truth. He'd carried her for too long, and her family's disdain had only made it heavier. Lilia lunged for the papers, flipping through them. This is fake, she shouted, but her voice faltered as she saw the dates, the amounts, the undeniable proof. A family friend, a quiet man in his 50s, spoke up. This isn't right. Mateo's been supporting her, and you all ignored him. The tide was turning, the room's allegiance shifting as the Gonzalez family's facade crumbled. Carmen rounded on Sophia, her voice sharp. You disgraced us. How could you keep this from us? Sophia buried her face in her hands, her body shaking. I thought I could fix it, she mumbled. I thought I'd get another job. Mateo shook his head. You thought you could keep lying while I cleaned up your mess. He pointed at the divorce papers. That's my line in the sand. Hector stepped toward Mateo, his voice booming. You think you can humiliate my daughter and walk away? Mateo met his glare. I'm not humiliating her. I'm holding her accountable. Something you should have done years ago. Tia Rosa clapped slowly, her grin wide. About time someone said it. You raised a spoiled liar, Hector. The room gasped again, but Rosa's words landed like truth bombs, undeniable and devastating. Sophia reached for Mateo's hand, desperate. I'll change. I'll get a job, I swear. He pulled back, his voice steady. You had 7 years to choose me over them. You never did. He turned to the table, addressing everyone. I'm done being your punching bag. You want family? Act like one. He grabbed his jacket, the divorce papers still lying in front of Sophia, and headed for the door. Carmen called after him, her voice shrill. This isn't over, Mateo. He paused, looking back. It is for me. The room fell silent as he walked out, the weight of his decision settling like dust after a storm. Sophia's sobs echoed behind him, but Mateo kept moving, each step toward the driveway lighter than the last. He'd exposed the truth, and there was no going back. Mateo's car roared out of the Coral Gables estate, the divorce papers left behind like a grenade with a pin pulled. His phone buzzed relentlessly, Sophia's name flashing, then Carmen's, then Hector's, but he silenced it, focusing on the Miami skyline ahead. The lunch had shattered the Gonzalez family's polished image, and Mateo's truth had spread like wildfire through their social circle. By evening, whispers of their cruelty and Sophia's lies reached the country club, where Carmen's weekly bridge game was abruptly canceled. 2 days later, Mateo sat in his lawyer's office, a small brickell, sweet-smelling of coffee and ink. His attorney, Elena, spread out the financial documents across a glass table. You've got a strong case, she said, tapping a stack of bank statements. You've been paying for everything: rent, utilities, Sophia's debts. The court will see you've been the sole provider. Mateo nodded, his jaw tight. I just want out. Clean break. Elena handed him a pen. Sign here. We'll file tomorrow. Back at his temporary apartment, a modest studio overlooking the bay, Mateo sorted through emails from colleagues offering support. Word had leaked, someone at the lunch had talked, and now the Gonzalez family's reputation was unraveling. A notification popped up, an invitation to a tech networking event at a Wynwood bar. Mateo hesitated, then RSVP'd. He'd spent years shrinking himself to fit Sophia's world. Tonight, he'd start rebuilding his own. Meanwhile, Sophia faced her family's wrath. At their estate, Carmen paced the dining room, clutching a phone. The charity board dropped me, she snapped, glaring at Sophia, who sat on a couch, eyes red from crying. They said our family drama is a liability. Hector slammed a newspaper down, its society column hinting at their disgrace. You lied about your job, Sophia. Now we're pariahs. Lilia, scrolling through her phone, groaned. My yoga group ghosted me. This is your fault. Sophia's voice broke. I didn't mean for this to happen. I was scared you'd judge me. Carmen whirled on her. Judge you? You let Mateo carry you while you played us for fools. Sophia buried her face in her hands, but Hector's voice cut through. Fix this. Beg him to come back. Sophia grabbed her keys, desperation driving her to Mateo's apartment. She knocked, her voice trembling. Mateo, please. I'll make it right. Mateo opened the door, his expression cold. You had years to make it right. Sophia stepped closer, her hands clasped. I was wrong. I should have stood up to them. Let's try counseling. Mateo shook his head. You chose their approval over our marriage every time. I'm done. He closed the door, leaving her on the steps, her sobs fading as he turned up the music to drown them out. The next week, Mateo walked into the mediation hearing, his briefcase heavy with evidence. Sophia sat across the table, her lawyer fidgeting as Elena presented the financial records. Mr. Ramirez has paid all marital expenses for 12 months, Elena said, sliding the documents to the mediator. Mrs. Gonzalez has no income and misrepresented her employment status. Sophia's lawyer stammered, my client is seeking employment, but the mediator cut him off. These records speak for themselves. Sophia's eyes pleaded with Mateo. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'll change. Mateo leaned forward, his voice calm but firm. You changed me, Sophia. You made me see I deserve better. The mediator reviewed the papers, then looked at Sophia. Given the evidence, Mr. Ramirez is entitled to the apartment and no alimony obligations. Sophia's shoulders slumped, her last hope crumbling. As Mateo left the hearing, his phone pinged, a text from Tia Rosa. Proud of you. Come to my place for dinner Sunday. Real family only. He smiled, the weight of years lifting. The Gonzalez family's social calendar was empty, their invites to galas and luncheons revoked. Sophia moved back to her parents' estate, her dreams of independence shattered. Mateo, meanwhile, walked into the Winwood event, shaking hands with new faces, his future wide open. Mateo stepped into his new Brickell apartment, the keys jingling in his hand, the lease officially his after the mediation victory. He set down a takeout bag of Cuban sandwiches from a nearby cafe, the aroma filling the small space. The divorce was finalized. Sophia had signed the papers, her lawyer conceding defeat when faced with Mateo's meticulous financial records. He opened a laptop, checking emails from a new client, a startup eager for his IT expertise. Freedom tasted better than any steak the Gonzalez family ever served. Across town, Sophia unpacked a suitcase in her childhood bedroom at the Coral Gables estate. Her phone lay silent. No notifications from friends, no invites to brunches. The society pages, once her family's domain, now buzzed with gossip about their fall from grace. Carmen had resigned from her charity board, citing personal reasons, while Hector avoided his golf buddies, their usual tea times replaced by awkward silences. Lilia's influencer gigs dried up, her followers dropping after a leaked post about her mocking Mateo's job went viral. Mateo drove to Tia Rosa's modest Hialeah bungalow for Sunday dinner, the first invitation that felt genuine in years. She greeted him with a hug, her kitchen alive with the sizzle of plantains frying. "You did good, kid," she said, handing him a beer. "Never let anyone walk over you like that again." They sat with her husband, a retired mechanic, swapping stories about honest work and laughing over shared plates of arroz con pollo. Mateo felt a warmth he'd forgotten, a sense of belonging. Back at his apartment, Mateo scrolled through a volunteer app, signing up for a library book drive in Little Havana, where he'd first met Sophia. He hesitated, then confirmed, determined not to let the past define him. The next weekend, he sorted donated novels, joking with a fellow volunteer, a graphic designer named Carla, about the absurdity of dog-eared thrillers. Her laugh sparked a memory of better days, but Mateo pushed it aside, focusing on the present. Sophia, meanwhile, sat in a job interview at a downtown marketing firm, her resume thin after a year of idleness. The interviewer skimmed her application, raising an eyebrow. "You left your last position abruptly. Care to explain?" Sophia stammered, her confidence crumbling. "I had personal challenges," she said, but the interviewer's nod was curt. She left the office, the rejection sinking in, and texted Mateo. "Can we talk? I'm trying to change." He read it, then set his phone down, unanswered. At the library event, Mateo handed out books to kids, their excitement infectious. Carla joined him, stacking sci-fi novels with a grin. "You're good at this," she said, passing him a worn copy of Dune. "Ever think about running these events?" Mateo shrugged, but her words planted a seed. He'd always loved the library's community spirit. Maybe he could lead more than just IT projects. Weeks later, Sophia stood outside Mateo's apartment, clutching a letter she'd written, apologizing for her silence and begging for a second chance. She slipped it under his door, waiting for a response that never came. Inside, Mateo read the letter, then filed it away with the divorce papers. Her words were sincere, but trust, once broken, didn't rebuild easily. He texted Tia Rosa instead, confirming plans for a barbecue, his new circle of friends growing. The Gonzalez family faced their reckoning. Carmen volunteered at a local shelter, hoping to rebuild her reputation, but whispers followed her. Hector sold a vacation home to cover legal fees from a failed business deal. His pride stung. Lilia enrolled in a community college course, her first step toward a real job, humbled by the loss of her safety net. Sophia landed a part-time gig, her salary barely covering her own expenses, a stark contrast to the life Mateo once funded. Mateo, now leading the library's monthly book drives, stood in front of a crowd, announcing a new tech literacy program he'd pitched. Carla clapped from the sidelines, her support unwavering. As he spoke, his phone buzzed, a client offering a contract that could double his income. He smiled, realizing he'd reclaimed his life. The Gonzalez family's world had shrunk, their arrogance exposed, while Mateo's expanded, built on respect and hard-won independence.